Welcome, everyone. My name is Robin Elander, Executive Director for the Downtown Santa Barbara organization. I'm so excited to be here with our guests and our hosts from the Santa Barbara Independent. This is a weekly Downtown Spotlight episode highlighting downtown businesses and celebrating their contributions. This week, we're going to be speaking with Larry Feinberg from the Santa Barbara Museum of Art. Welcome, Larry. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Thank you, Robin.
Wonderful. And we have Jonathan Fox from the Ensemble Theater Company. Welcome. And congratulations on winning Best Of in the Santa Barbara Independent today. That's huge. So super excited about that.
Appreciate it.
And of course, our host, Charles Donelan, who has been the arts and entertainment editor at the Santa Barbara Independent for, I believe is it 15 years now, Charles?
That sounds about right. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for hosting our show about the arts and entertainment going on in downtown Santa Barbara. I am going to toss it over to you, and so excited about our conversation today.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you everybody out there in Facebook live stream land. I'm going to repeat the names and titles of our guests because these are two of the most distinguished people who run the organizations that anchor our arts district. Jonathan Fox is the artistic director at Ensemble Theater Company and was in many ways responsible for the building of the Ensemble Theater's home, the New Vic Theater on Victoria Street. Larry Feinberg is the Robert and Mercedes Eichholz Director at the Santa Barbara Museum of Art, and he's also the Chief Executive Officer there. So these are the people who call the shots in our arts district, and we're really happy to have you here. So important to the downtown community, what you people do and the teams that you lead. In terms of just creating the kind of atmosphere and setting the tone that makes Santa Barbara such an attractive place for people to come and visit and absorb some of the world's best culture. So I'm just going to start off, and I think maybe we'll begin with Jonathan, and you can tell us just a little bit about the current operating situation. I know it's been really tough for theaters, but you do have some things happening right now. I believe there's acting classes being taught, and maybe you can just talk a little bit about current plans and you know what you are presenting at the moment, or what
Sure.
you're offering. Thanks.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to the Downtown organization and to the Independent, and both you, Robin, and Charles for having me on, for inviting me to do this. So we were shut down like everyone in March because of while restaurants have been able to reopen and even movie theaters now have been able to reopen, there are still no state guidelines for performing arts buildings or performing arts organizations to reopen. So it's been, continues to be a challenge for us. We do have a reduced staff and reduced business. We do have our box office online and via email and phone, even though we are closed to the public. And in the meantime, since we shut down, we have taken a number of things online. So we shut down back in March, just as we were about to start rehearsals for a production of American Son, which is a new play that had been on Broadway about racism and the police. So it became quite the topic of the moment, and just after we shut down. And at the same time, we took all of our education programming online. So that included a fundraising presentation called the Great American Songbook that we did online, and actually had Michael Feinstein from New York take part. The Young Playwrights Festival, we did that online this year. Our production of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which was, we typically have a summer performance with kids, and we couldn't do that in the flesh this summer, so we did that online and created a wonderful virtual animated production of that. Also, we have started to present the one-man shows of Hershey Felder. They have been streaming live from Florence. We are part of a group of theaters around the country that are presenting him, and that supports Ensemble Theater. And he's done, the two that we've produced so far or presented were about George Gershwin and Beethoven. And because we couldn't do American Son, some of our constituents were disappointed that we couldn't use that as a way to address Black Lives Matter and the protests that were happening very strongly this past spring. So we did a virtual book club. We had about 100 participants come on. James Joyce III, who runs his program called Coffee with a Black Guy here in town, co-led the discussion with me. And it was a wonderful hour-and-a-half discussion about racism in Santa Barbara and in the country and in the world. I should say, by the way, that our production of American Son was supposed to go to Germany, so this was a production that couldn't happen there either. And right now, we are planning on a number of online productions coming soon. But right now, we have our acting classes back outside with kids. So that has been great because they are socially distancing and wearing masks, but they are able to get outside.
Fantastic. And Larry, thank you for your patience, but I just was reminded of something that I really feel that people out there would appreciate knowing, which is, Jonathan, you know, when the protests that were started around the death of George Floyd started, I thought a lot about some of the shows that you have programmed over the last few years, in particular, well, a Lynn Nottage, which you did, which was amazing, but also the Invisible Hand. And, you know, Ensemble has really been very committed to work that examines some of these social justice issues. And even in Invisible Hand, you know, kind of this interesting international interface between race and income inequality. I mean, that's really an important topic right now. And it was such a tough blow for us to lose that production of American Son due to the pandemic, when it would have been such a timely thing to see. So I hope that we're going to be able to get that play one way or another when things are back open.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for acknowledging the work that we've been doing, and we're very proud of that. And we are hopeful that we will be able to bring back American Son, or bring it on as soon as we can. So we actually have, the set is built, it's in our shop, and we're just waiting for the time when we can have the public come in. That is not a show we can do just as a streaming vehicle. Sure. So we do need to wait until the audience can come back in. But we're okay with a reduced audience, by the way, with socially distanced. We're not like Broadway, which is announced, as you know, closures well into the spring and possibly for another year, because our economics don't really require us to have a full house.
I see. Very good. Larry, congratulations on reopening. How many days have you had people in the galleries now?
Well, we reopened on October 1st, and the first couple of weeks we just had our, it was just open to members. But this past yesterday, we've opened to the general public, and we're free. We're going to be free for a while. And of course, we still have reduced gallery space because we're still undergoing our major renovation. We have a few galleries open, and those galleries have the shows that we were just about to open at the time that COVID hit in March. And so virtually no one got to see those shows, but they're up now. One of them is called In the Meanwhile. It's recent acquisitions, past 3 or 4 years of contemporary works of art on paper, which is quite a nice show. A lot of those were acquired by our previous curator of contemporary art, Julie Joyce. And another really beautiful little show called Small Format Small Format American Paintings, which is exactly that. And it has some very nice 19th and early 20th century paintings. And then we've also opened something new. We've transformed the Davidson Gallery into a Works on Paper Center. And so there's not only a gallery for works of art on paper there, but you can actually watch our staff at work, photographers, conservators, curators working on works of art on paper through windows into a sort of workroom that they have. And guests visitors to the museum will be able to interact with them if they wish, can even make appointments to come in and see what they're doing. So that's all going on. But as I say, it's still going to be a little while before the entire museum is open.
This is exciting though, and I don't think we could possibly emphasize this enough, so I'm just going to say it again. The Santa Barbara Museum of Art is open and it's free. And it's out there right in the middle of the State Street pedestrian mall. So if you're planning to go, and have dinner or even just walk up and down State Street, think about, now Larry, tell us about the ticketing. Can you just walk up or do you have to make an arrangement in advance?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And actually a couple of other changes. For reasons of social distancing, we've installed a new time ticketing system so that nobody is waiting in line and we never have too many people in the galleries at once. We're going to be functioning at about a quarter capacity, which is what's prescribed for, as we are all in the red phase now of COVID. When we move to orange, we can have 50% capacity in the galleries. Even then, there'll be plenty of space. But also the other thing that I would like to tell the audience is that we have changed our schedule a little bit so that we're not open Tuesday through Sunday.
Right.
Instead, we're going to be open Wednesday through Sunday, which allows us to open a little earlier each morning. So instead of opening at 11, we open at 9. And those first 2 hours of the day are designated for seniors and for other groups of people who are considered at risk for the virus. So there'll be fewer people and won't be around quite a diversity of people. And we hope not only will make everyone safer, but everybody will feel safer.
And as I understand that, Larry, that's not going to be, they're not going to be checking your ID to prove your age. You can self-select into that group to some extent. Is that true?
Yes, we're not going to check that, and you don't have to bring a note from your doctor either to show that you
Very good.
have a pre-existing condition and that you're in an at-risk group. We'll take your word for it.
Okay. Well, I really hope that people who are listening and watching on Facebook right now will actually take action and just do this. Go online, go to sbma.net and make a reservation, because this is exactly the kind of thing that I think is going to assist in the full revitalization of downtown, because the restaurants have done a terrific job. And the way that State Street has been reorganized is quite dramatic. But I also think, especially speaking for myself, I want to walk down State Street and I want to maybe stop in and have a bite to eat. But I also really want to reconnect with these cultural institutions, and I'm just so relieved that this is possible again. So I am planning to make my reservations right away and come in and take some time in the galleries and maybe even take a look at what they're doing in that Works on Paper Center in the Davidson Gallery. And then, go and patronize maybe one of the nice restaurants in the neighborhood. Because I know also, is it Victoria is closed as well. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yes, it's temporarily closed, and the public market and all the restaurants on that street have created outdoor spaces, which is great. Brings a lot of people. We remain closed for right now, but we hope that this will draw a much larger community to the street long term.
That's great. Yeah, I think, you know, it's so important to emphasize that this is something that Brandon Searles was really articulate about in last week's Spotlight. That arts district is a gem. There's nothing else like this on the South and Central Coast. You know, those blocks, and the fact that they're now closed to vehicular traffic, and that you can enjoy these beautiful buildings and spend some time in a fantastic world-class museum and then eat a wonderful meal. I mean, we're back to some extent in the arts district, and the more people that know it, you know, the better. I think that's just so important. I'm going to turn our attention just for a moment, and I hope not in too sad a way, but I do want to ask a little bit about the onset of the pandemic, because I know, for example, one of the very last things I got to do before we were all asked to stay home was I attended the Los Angeles Philharmonic 100th anniversary concert in the Granada, and it was one of the greatest concert experiences I've had in my entire life. Gustavo Dudamel was incredible. The orchestra played Charles Ives' Second Symphony, which I'd never heard in person before. And then the Community Arts Music Association threw one of the best parties I've ever been to. And Larry, maybe you could talk about that, because you were kind of the host on that. You at least offered us the museum for that evening.
Well, we were happy to do that because we were one of the closest venues, but we can't take any credit for the beauty or elegance of that party. They were the ones who put that party on. We just provided the venue for them, but it was really wonderful. And as Jonathan knows, all of us, we love, all the cultural organizations love to collaborate on things when we can. When life gets somewhat back to normal, I've always said to Jonathan, I would love for him to have some of his actors to put on maybe a part of a play in the museum. You know, we're trying to bring dance into the museum, theater, of course, music. We have pop-up opera. So anyway, it was really an honor for us to host that party.
It was a terrific night. Extremely memorable. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, no, I had been actually looking at several Van Gogh plays that
right.
could have easily been done as a reading of some sort, and but sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Larry, I'm going to come back to you because I would love to hear a little bit more. One of the things that I seem to remember from discussions when the museum began the extensive remodel, reconstruction that you guys are now almost wrapping up. I think you're getting close to the finish of that, was that there would be some more event space as part of this project. Is that true?
Well, there will be eventually. Right now, with this phase of it, there's more gallery space.
Right.
There's a whole new gallery that's dedicated to contemporary art, as well now finally a gallery dedicated to photography, which, as you know, we have a pretty extensive and really good collection of photography. So it looks like at this point, the construction people are almost done, and then if they should clear out November, December, and then we can start reinstalling all of the galleries. And we're hoping then we can reopen the entire museum in April. Jonathan mentioned Van Gogh. It was one of the things that we were hoping to collaborate with not only other cultural organizations when we opened that, but also with restaurants and hotels in town. Van Gogh was supposed to have opened this month, but with trying to be extremely prudent, we have delayed the Van Gogh show until February of 2022. And we hope certainly by that time there'll be a vaccine. And we hope by that time all of our colleagues, other organizations, particularly performing arts organizations, are all up and running again. So perhaps they will be able to do some complimentary offerings to the Van Gogh show.
So there's going to be some patience involved. There already has been, and there's going to be some more. But one thing that I would like to dwell on is that thinking about this, Jonathan, your building is one of the newest theaters in California. The Granada is one of the most impressive renovations and relatively recent as well. And then Larry, when you're done with the museum, we're going to be talking about a fascinating and I think incredibly important kind of combination of things, which is a historic arts district that's all new. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really nice. And on top of that, the library has plans to redo, renovate Library Plaza as well, which is a space that they kindly let us share with them and host events together. And so that's going to be wonderful too. Yeah, I should mention that, you know, we each year around this time we host Day of the Dead in that plaza.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, we can't this year, but we do have still pretty extensive online offerings. So for those who would be missing Day of the Dead, this Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be doing a kind of virtual Day of the Dead. And on each day at 11 o'clock, we're actually going to have artisans zooming in from Oaxaca, and we'll have a couple of programs. I don't know if they're going to be talking about creating altars or not this year, but anyway. So yeah, so I just wanted to mention that as part of this wonderful revigoration, thanks to Jonathan's efforts and the renovation of the museum and the plaza, yeah, the arts district is really gonna, we hope, flourish in years to come.
Absolutely, and that reminds me actually of something that Larry, I don't think we even had a chance to talk about yet, but that I've been very aware of, which is that the museum has continued to operate a really extensive education program, even under these circumstances. You've got wonderful people in that area at the museum, and you've done Zoom, but I know there's also been distribution of art materials to schools and children, and that the museum has really stepped up to this distant situation in terms of these offerings. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of these Zoom talks and things that you've done.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, Patsy Hicks, who's our Director of Education, and her very productive, impassioned group have done a lot of work, continue to do in-class Zoom classrooms with various schools in the area. They've also been conducting, well, if you go on our website, you'll see there are a number of different art making classes that they're offering for children and for adults. We also have been putting lessons online for teachers and students. They've continued to do as much as they can. Almost everything that we were doing before in the museum or in the schools, we're now providing online.
It's amazing. And Jonathan, I know you also have a irrepressible director of your education program who has managed to keep his program alive during this whole period. Do you want to talk about Brian McDonald?
Yeah, Brian McDonald, who's really very, very talented and inspirational and creative. And in addition to the classes that he had been conducting of middle school and high school students, he's actually branched out now into very young kids who I think are desperate to be outside and creative. But also he is now working with the juvenile justice, not sure exactly the name of the organization here. So he is going to be working with them on working with juveniles in the justice system on theater practices and theater studies. So for example, he's planning to start, I think, with American Son, actually, as a jumping off point for them. So that's a very exciting new endeavor.
And Brian was the director of a very successful show that you did last season for the holiday period, the It's a Wonderful Life. He directed that, is that right?
He did. He did a wonderful job. We presented that as a radio play, live on stage with sound effects. And in fact, one of the, this is all new, we haven't actually even informed our subscribers of this yet, but we are working now towards, this is a new announcement. We are actually now planning a live production of A Christmas Carol from our stage, using the same cast as from It's a Wonderful Life, the same 5 people playing a lot of different roles. It's a brand new adaptation of the novel and will be live streamed in December.
It was such a great production, the It's a Wonderful Life last year, and I'll be delighted to be able to reconnect with that cast. The way that that was staged, the use of the various different Foley sound effects, and the whole business of watching the production of a radio broadcast. It was fascinating, it was charming. It took a lot of coordination. I think it was a huge directing task, and Brian did a magnificent job with it. That was definitely one of my favorite shows from last year. What kinds of things are you looking forward to in terms of working with the Arts District? You've talked a little bit about potential collaborations, but how does it feel to have, for example, State Street open to pedestrians? Is this something that you feel like? I mean, there's a lot of talk about potentially keeping this going, even after the restrictions related to the pandemic maybe are reduced. Larry, would it be exciting for you to have a pedestrian mall in front of the museum?
Yeah, I think it's very nice. When they first started it started a couple of blocks below us, and I was encouraging them, please do this all the way up to the museum, because it just creates a sense of a fair, a kind of open market, and it just encourages people to, I think, to interact more, and I think it will cause more people actually to come to the museum as well. So yeah, I think it's a very nice thing. I'm aware, there have been certain cities that have tried that. They've closed down streets and it hasn't worked. It's because so many people are so wedded to their cars. But I don't think Santa Barbara is like that. I think Santa Barbara is one of those cases where people, particularly tourists, they love being able to just wander around because it's such a beautiful place that you don't want to be in a car.
Well, one of the things I picked up on from the conversation last week on the Spotlight with Marge and Matt Kedman and Brendan is that the restaurateurs are reporting that they're getting people who are parking like down, even some of them on the beach side of the freeway, and they walk, and the whole thing is so interesting that they find themselves up in front of the Granada before they know it. And that's extraordinary because I don't think most people, speaking of getting in your car, I don't think most people would necessarily walk that, it's more than a mile. But it is now a little bit more, there's more activity, there's more stuff to see on the street. I was always surprised when I first moved to Santa Barbara, now almost 20 years ago, that there was not more outdoor dining. As a New Yorker, when I moved here, thinking, that Santa Barbara was going to be like the West Village, which is where I lived before, I kept wondering, where are those patios? And there were a few, but now the whole thing, potentially. And Jonathan, talk to us a little bit about the public market and the partnership that you have with those folks, because that place is quite an extraordinary success story. And it wasn't always an easy, obvious solution. I know Marge talked about this last week, but she had to reimagine that multiple times in order to get the mix right. But I think they have.
Yeah, they opened, we were both under construction at the same time. They opened, I think, a couple months after we opened our new theater. And so I've always felt like there was this great partnership and opportunity for us. Our audiences, when we had performances, I would always see our audiences at local restaurants 10 minutes before 8. They would all file out and come to the theater. So I think it's great that that they're doing so well. I think it's a wonderful business. I think it's great that to see all the new restaurants, or rather the restaurants that have been there, thriving now again. Which and personally, I never drove down State Street. I always avoided State Street.
Yeah.
I just am thrilled that it's right now a pedestrian street, and I would be surprised actually if it ever reopened to traffic, quite frankly. I think it's just, I think that makes so much sense to me.
It's going to be very interesting to see how it evolves.
Right.
One of the things that I appreciate the most about the Victoria Street block that the New Vic is on is the way that it functions for everybody, but especially I have, through my work as a teacher and through my extended family, my niece and my nephew, and I know that, you know, that used to be kind of, it was about going to the Paseo Nuevo, where they still go to some extent, you know, and they like to sit on those tiled steps that face out onto Chapala. But now, boy, that public market and that area in front of the New Vic, that has become a real magnet for younger Santa Barbara people. And I hope that they start hanging out over in the museum a little bit too, Larry. Let's get those high school kids off the streets into the galleries, right?
Absolutely. Actually, that's another advantage of having State Street closed off, is because, as you know, Charles, we have studios on the steps.
Yes.
And we have all these sort of family art making programs on our stairs. It's sort of based on the Jesuit philosophy. The Jesuits always built their church with stairs that flowed right into the streets. So we hope to capture people that way with those activities. And so again, if you have people walking rather than in cars, it would help us in that way.
I think all three of us have been New Yorkers at one point, and there's nothing quite like the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art for you know, just conjuring the most sort of intense version of a great afternoon, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday in New York City. It's a great place to be.
We actually are envisioning, you know, hopefully one day we can actually even have outdoor performances on our landing while we have all the restaurants out there too. Right now, it's not allowed by the county health order. So one day it will be, and we'll start to produce outdoor performances as well.
So that brings me to maybe a short discussion, or whatever amount works, but let's talk a little bit about some of the long-term plans. Larry, February 2022 for Van Gogh, but you've also got, I think, some interesting news about the Ludington Court and about some of the bigger aspects of your remodel. Is that true?
Yes, thanks, Charles. Yeah, the museum, it's fair to say, in all honesty, it's going to be fairly transformed. One of the things people will notice first when they come in is Ludington Court. That's the big courtyard when you come up the stairs and you first walk into the museum, that always had our antiquities, our Greek and Roman antiquities. That has been reimagined. The back of the court did not have arches. It just had a little square doorway opening. We've added arches, the arches that had been there when it was a post office. And so it has more of a, I think, a glorious sort of classical feel to it now. But in that court, we're not only going to have Greek and Roman antiquities now, but as we push toward greater diversity in our programming and in our collections, that gallery will also feature some of the highlights of our African collection and our pre-Columbian collection. And what's also really exciting is that now the upper part of Ludington Court, if you all remember, it used to have a balcony all the way around. That has been closed off for various reasons, which means that we can hang paintings all the way up from the arches to the ceilings, so that we'll be able to get out scores of pictures, 16th, 17th, 18th century European pictures that haven't seen the light of day in decades. And some of the older pictures, which are really pretty glorious. So that gallery will absolutely be full of pictures. We'll have, as I mentioned, above the McCormick Gallery, we are building a new gallery. We've built a new gallery for contemporary art for our permanent collection. So that will be filled. We'll have a new gallery dedicated to photography, so that when we open, there will be more artwork on view in the museum at any time in its history, more than any time in its history. So we're really pleased about that. And as I say to people, the collection really belongs to the community, and so now the community will get to see way more of it than they've ever seen before.
I love the Ludington legacy at the museum, and I hope, you know, I like to think maybe Tony Kushner is watching, you know, because I want to see the Right Ludington story on the New Vic stage. Not sure I'm ready to write it, but I do think it would make an excellent play. Both Jonathan and Larry, I'm sure, are aware of Ludington's wonderful, fascinating life, and incredible. I mean, he really started the Santa Barbara Museum of Art.
Yeah, he was one of the founders, and the artworks that he donated really form the core of the collection. And he not only donated antiquities, as you know, but also across the board, the man had superb taste.
Yes.
We have Picasso's from him. We have other contemporary works from him.
Right.
And actually from his father, have a large part of our Asian art collection comes, Chinese work comes. So yeah, he was something else. And as I think you know, Charles, he was a rather colorful individual.
I do know that, yes.
So yeah, he would make a good subject for a play.
And a great patron of the architects and the landscape architects. I think that bench on the corner there of Anapamu outside the museum, that's one of the only monuments to a landscape architect that I know of, right? Is that a Lockwood de Forest monument there? Or
Absolutely right. That's Lockwood de Forest, finished up by his wife after he passed away. But yeah, he engaged Lockwood to do that.
My friend who's a landscape architect likes to point that out. Jonathan, a couple more questions for you about potential uses of the New Vic during this period, because is that something we can talk about, or do you think maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, while we're close to the public, we can reopen as a film studio, which is what we're in the process of doing. We're working towards, we're a professional theater, so we're members of several unions, and they, especially the Screen Actors Guild, has come out with guidelines for filming, and so we are intending to create a space where we can continue to rent it out to other organizations and offer live streaming capability. So that is, while we're waiting to get over this this current period, our future over the next 6 to 9 months, we think it will be a combination of live streaming performances and potentially easing into having the public in once we are allowed to and it's safe. And hopefully we'll be able to offer again full productions with full audiences by the summer. And that's when we might bring back American Son and Tenderly.
And I noticed that the Metropolitan Theaters, the Corwins, have been able to reopen the Fiesta, which is in your neighborhood as well, at least at a 1/4 capacity. So, you know, perhaps that's a hopeful sign that cinema
that's a
is
good sign.
back.
we're actually also looking into whether we can open as a cinema. But you know, we do have film screening capabilities as well, so we're looking into that. And also coming up, we have launched a campaign. We are just now taking it public, but it is called the Extraordinary Times Campaign. And
yeah,
while we were on stable financial footing coming into the pandemic, which is great, in order to actually stay open and produce a number of things, even virtually, we needed to raise funds to make sure that we weren't depleting our funds and not being able to reopen a year from now or 2 years from now. So the goal of the campaign is $400,000, and I'm thrilled to let you know that we have raised, I think, over $325,000.
wow, well done.
And includes a $100,000 challenge grant from a woman named Joan Recknitz to help us close out the campaign. So that's very exciting for us.
Well, fantastic. And anyone who is listening or watching on Facebook Live, help Jonathan finish the job there. It is definitely extraordinary times.
It is.
And you both have done just fabulous jobs as leaders in this city. Really want to congratulate you both on not only you know, showing us what's possible, but also staying tough and hanging in there and taking care of your people in a difficult time. Because I know the arts have been challenged at a level and in a way that is, you know, beyond almost anything else that's happening. You know, maybe obviously the first responders, the people in the medical community, but the pandemic has hit the arts hard. And I feel very fortunate to live in a city where we have leadership like the leadership that you two represent. So thank you so much. Anything else, Larry? You want to remind anybody of take those reservations?
I just want to remind the adults in the audience that we also have some other online programs that might interest them. Our Parallel Stories program continues, where we bring really wonderful authors to speak. And I want to make sure I get this correct. That Terrence Hayes is coming on November 4th, or will be available on Zoom. And before that, Marshall Brown, the artist, will be on October 26th. So if everyone please would visit our website, I think you'll find still a lot of interesting programming there.
Yeah, that Marshall Brown talk I think is going to be very appealing because he's an expert on collage. And Santa Barbara, for people who don't necessarily know, and definitely for all you people out there who do know, is one of the important centers for collage art in the whole world. We have a lot of really important major artists who work in that medium here. So that should be a fun night with Marshall Brown. And that's coming up. That's next week.
Yep, that's right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both, Jonathan Fox, Larry Feinberg. Really
guys.
great to just be with you, even if it's virtually. And again, our gratitude for your leadership in these difficult times. I'm going to hand it back to Robin Elander and say thank you on behalf of the Independent. Everybody pick up a Best of Santa Barbara issue. We're so proud. Big, perfect, bound, over 100 pages, and we are still in there and surviving and thriving in this difficult time. Thank you very much. This is Charles Donelan, and great job, guys.
Thanks, Charles. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Charles, for hosting such a great show today and making sure our arts community and our entire community knows what these two fabulous gentlemen, Larry Feinberg from the Museum of Art and Jonathan Fox from the Ensemble Theater Company, are doing to really educate our community and to support our entire community with this programming. So I want to just round out and share that next week we are going to be speaking with Matt Kettman from the Independent, and we're going to be interviewing two business owners downtown. So Sean Smith with Institution Ale, and also interviewing Doug Marjoram with Marjoram Wine Company. So we have this show every every Thursday at 3, where we spotlight different business owners. And one thing I want you, all these art lovers, to know about is we're going to be, Downtown Santa Barbara organization is starting a new State Street Promenade shop local artisan market on November 5th. So with the time change, there's gonna be all kinds of great new light up downtown with the holiday lights. And this is from 3 to 7:30. So if you're an artist or a local business owner or maker, join us for that. And the deadline for that is October 23rd, so coming up next Friday. So thanks all for joining us. We'll see you next time, and really just had a wonderful time learning about what you all are up to. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. All right, well, great guys. We'll see you sometime soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much. It was
Take care.
a pleasure.
Good to
All right.
see you all,
Thanks,
guys.
Robin.
Bye.